What's up, everybody? Mike Golic Jr. with you, back here again on the Bleacher Report College Football Reactions weekly stream. We are here, as we are always, every Tuesday, 6 o'clock Eastern, to break down everything we saw over the weekend in college football. I'm a former Notre Dame offensive lineman, now turned TNT broadcast analyst. Excited to take you guys through a little bit what we saw over the weekend, and this is one where we saw a number of top 25 teams go down, big shakeups in the top 10, a lot of risers and fallers. We want to hear from you. As always, hit us up in the chat, either on the BR app, the BR YouTube channel. Let us know what you're hearing. Our producer Ryan's going to throw those up top for me. I'll see them on the screen, and we'll try and answer your questions as we go. And one of the areas we love doing that the most is taking a look at the AP poll reactions that we have, and a lot of moving and changing this week. So want to hear from you. What are you most surprised about? Which team are you most surprised to see moving up or moving down in the AP poll? Big news of the week. We know Miami goes into the weekend taking their first loss on Friday night to Louisville. We will get to one of the plays that shows you just where Carson Beck went wrong and struggled with a quarterback on a day where he had 4 interceptions. But elsewhere, talk to your kids about second-ranked Indiana. Fernando Mendoza and them boys go and get a win over Michigan State. They keep it moving as Miami moves down. They're the beneficiary, the Midwest, young and restless, and the top 2 teams in the sport. So Ohio State, no surprise there. They go out and handle business again against a Wisconsin program under Luke Fickell that we'll wait and see. That seed has got to be getting awful hot right now at this point. And Texas A&M survives a shootout against Arkansas in a game where, Taylor Green was up and down with injury, but Marcel Reed manages to help them win in that shootout. And Alabama, back in the top 5. Man, that loss to Florida State early in the season seems like a million years ago. Georgia rounding that out after they beat Ole Miss. It seems like the right group, but 3 of the top 5 in the SEC, the other 2 in the Big Ten. This is kind of the college football that we figured we'd signed up for at this point, with the conference realignment going the way that it's gone. The interesting ones in the back half of this top 5. So Ole Miss falls down to number 8 in a game where they had a very real chance to win. We're up once again on the half, which is kind of what Georgia's majored in. Coming back in the second half of SEC games. And then Miami, that lost to a Louisville team that is at 19th right now, and I think deservedly so. NY Dumpster Juice. Dear God, what a name. If ND wins out, where do you have them at the end? I think they are firmly in the college football playoff if they win out from here on out. That win against USC was big. It was the only ranked one left on their schedule. We'll see if Navy is still ranked by the time they play. Navy's got North Texas before them, which won't be an easy game. But if they're ranked, that could be another little bit of juice. But I still think 10-2 Notre Dame good enough to get in. I saw someone in the chat mention the potential firing of Brian Kelly at OSU. Jay Griff says they're never going to fire Kelly. I would say the buyout's probably prohibitive at this point. He's had a Heisman Trophy winner in the first couple of years there. The offense has been a struggle. I know he name-checked Garrett Nussmeier early in the season as someone that could potentially be hurt. I still think it's more the offensive line. You watched that game from this last weekend, and he was getting harassed in the backfield. If Jimbo Fisher got paid $75 million to go off, I hope so. All right, let's go low-key T. Georgia Tech, let's talk about them. Will Georgia Tech be in the college football playoff? I think it becomes a really interesting question. They're up at number 7 right now. They are now the highest-ranked ACC team, and after the Miami loss, control their own destiny. It's Georgia Tech and Virginia at 16 that actually control their own destiny in the ACC. Miami now needs help. They could still get one of the potential at-large bids, but as far as the guaranteed bids that come from winning the conference, and you look here, Georgia, I checked per ESPN's FPI, favored in every game for the rest of the season. Virginia, on the other hand, I believe FPI had them as a dog on the road at Duke, who was the win that Georgia Tech got this last weekend. So that's going to be probably the decider. That was a tough outing. Georgia Tech, if I had to call it right now, man, you know what? We'll save that. We've got that coming up in a little bit of the show. We'll tease that one forward. We will also, Sam Rizzullo, get to Arch Manning's performance in a little bit as well. Jay Fowler, 911, Elijah Surratt, and Mendoza, go Hoosiers. Yeah, no, I agree. One of the best duos at quarterback and receiver in college football. They work incredibly well on that offense. It's been amazing to watch. Billy the Kid 318, Michigan isn't winning bleep. After the last couple of weeks, I'm also kind of inclined to believe that Michigan, this may not be their year. Bryce Underwood seems like he's got a bunch of potential going forward. And I also think Ohio State, if you can't beat Michigan this year, boy, oh boy, I'm going to start to get not worried. Like Ryan Day's not going anywhere. He's a national champion. Gatorman33, don't worry. We will get to who the Gators will hire and how real this Lane Kiffin talk is going forward as well. We got plenty of great stuff on the docket, as well as looking at Texas, Arch Manning. Kiffin to Florida, seems like a lot of smoke. There's usually fire. I don't know how I feel about it. I know Florida's also been lurking around trying to talk to Marcus Freeman, Eli Drinkwitz's name is going to come up a bunch in this. NY Dumpster Juice. I also believe Alabama is going to win the SEC this year. So it's been amazing. The start of the season to now, the way that's changed for the Crimson Tide. So Vanderbilt in the top 10 also. We are going to get to that game against LSU and a very real top 10 team with very legitimate college football playoff hopes right now. And then, as we mentioned, BYU and Notre Dame inside the top 12 here. Now, if the season ended today, USF would be the highest ranked group of 5 team. They would bump Notre Dame out of that top 12 spot, and away we'd go. But BYU, really interesting. A team that I was only so high on going through the season, but now with the win over Utah this past weekend, with a loss by Texas Tech, that Big 12 picture becomes a little murkier up top. I think you've got a group of teams. Arizona State's earned the right to be in that conversation yet again after the early season loss to Mississippi State. Texas Tech still in there. Utah still talented enough. BYU now near the driver's seat in that as well. So a fascinating Big 12 race taking shape in front of us. But let's talk more specifically about a couple of these games here. I want to start with Louisville and Miami because I think this is one of the most impactful of the season. Miami had a couple of wins early on that had sort of propelled them at or near the top of the conversation. They were getting first place vote, first place chatter. A lot of people wanted them to unseat Ohio State because of the win against Notre Dame, because of the win against Florida State that has aged a little bit poorly. Now the Hurricanes go out on Friday night in the ACC, which is a deadly weapon and one you should tread lightly with if you are a ranked team looking to not ruin your lives. Florida State's fallen victim to that. Now Miami, the latest one as well. And one of the questions is going to be about who does this fall at the feet of? Mario Cristobal takes a lot of blame at times for Miami because he's an ultra-conservative coach. He's had game plan issues at the end of games trying to make things happen. We know the famous clock gaffe against Georgia Tech. I look at this game, though, and I think a lot of this falls at the feet of Carson Beck, who you see right here was forced to put it in the air a bunch against a very physical Louisville defense that I thought played downhill, was destructive all day long, really good Miami offensive line that they got after up front. But I think the secondary had a lot to do with this. I don't think Carson Beck was seeing the picture very well against a Louisville defense that changed what it was doing a lot. They would start in one coverage look, they would move to another, and I don't think Carson Beck always did a good job of recognizing that, and as a result, the ball got put in harm's way a fair amount. And I want to show you one play that to me was emblematic watching this game of something that for a veteran quarterback, I'd imagine would be a lot simpler. And I always couch this by saying I'm not in the Miami meeting room. I don't know their specific responsibilities on every play. But in general, there are certain principles of football that I think are pretty universal to be followed. And this was one play that stuck out to me between Miami and Louisville in this game with Miami on offense. So let's go to it. 9:16 left in the third quarter. Miami, still a one-score game here. And this was a pass attempt to wide receiver C.J. Daniels on a route that they're going to have breaking towards the middle of the field. And right now you see this look to start. Too high safety. We call that middle of the field open. There's all this space right in the middle where you should be able to throw the football if you can get behind the linebacker level. The problem is, like Louisville did a lot during the day, they changed the picture and the rotation on this. So you had one safety coming down here because you had a blitzer coming off this edge, and the other safety moved over. So you went from a two-high look to a single high look, and we call that middle of the field close. It's all very obvious stuff. But it's obvious to everyone but the quarterback here. You're going to see Carson Beck originally start looking this way, thinking like he's looking that safety off. And instead, as we run the tape now, going to motion a man out, defense adjusts. So you've got that blitzer coming off the edge, this safety coming down here to cover the tight end, and then this safety rolling back in the middle of the field. So now he still sees that safety moving that way. He thinks there's green grass here, so he's going to throw that ball to C.J. Daniels in the middle of the field. Great reaction here by safety D'Angelo Hutchinson. Comes up and lands the blow, jars the ball loose, and has them going on to the next down. Sets a physical tone, but this is kind of what you saw all day between the pressure that Louisville showed at the line of scrimmage that was able to rattle Carson Beck, one of the interceptions, a zone dropper that didn't bite in a double move at all. I just don't think he was seeing the picture clearly on the back end of the defense. You combine that with a little pressure, and you have a 4-interception night that allows Louisville to pull off that upset. So going forward, it's going to be really difficult for Miami to try and get back in the mix. They're going to need someone to lose. But even beyond that, this was an offense and a defense that was challenged more along the lines of scrimmage than we've seen so far this year. And for a program under Mario Cristobal, the way he's always built his identity, the way he's always structured his programs at Oregon and here now, it's built along the offensive and defensive line. And credit to Jeff Brom and this group. Jeff Brom's a name that's going to get thrown around for a lot of these coaching vacancies, and deservedly so. The job he's done with this team, we know the offense with Miller Moss, the former USC quarterback. NY Dumpster Juice, Miami will always Miami. That's, I think, the fear that Miami fans are probably grappling with right now. And if you're a Miami fan in the chat, I'd love to hear from you, because this was supposed to be a year where you put to bed what happened the back half of last season, where some zany losses keep you out of the college football playoff, and all that money that you've put into it, all the job that Mario and the staff have done recruiting and building the right talent in this era, goes by the wayside. And once again, you got a quarterback that I think is capable enough, but again, Carson Beck, some of the mistakes made in this game, to me, are not mistakes that I expected from someone this late. I'm sure Georgia fans, I should say this late in his career, I'm sure Georgia fans disagree. GA87 girl said Georgia fans knew what it was with Miami and Beck. He's the same Beck he was in Georgia. He knew he wasn't going to get drafted there. I think Carson Beck is a good quarterback. I think there's a reason that when you looked at a lot of the NFL draft projections going back 2 years ago, some people had him as the number one pick. I thought he was a very good quarterback, not a great one. I think he could still be good enough to get Miami into the postseason, but we know the margin for error pretty thin now. All right, let's move along from there to Vanderbilt and their upset over LSU. Gotta be honest, home game for Vanderbilt didn't feel like an upset. I know technically it was, but this Vanderbilt team, I said it a month ago, not a cute story anymore, just a good football team. The Diego Pavia show is as advertised. This guy might be the most enjoyable quarterback to watch in college football, and I think is the most impactful. Like, depending on where Vanderbilt goes, you will be able to argue that Diego Pavia had as much of an impact on one program as any player in recent college football history. He's like a sawed-off Tebow, because when you have him one-on-one, or you think you have him one-on-one, you're just never going to get him down. He's going to find a way to make a play. In this game, Diego Pavia highlights littered all over it. You see the numbers right here. Over 200 total yards in the game, 3 total touchdowns. He was a menace. He helped them ice the game with his legs. I'll just say this about LSU on the other side before we get to part of what I think is the snapshot of Vanderbilt's overall improvement as a program, how they have gone out and been able to attack people physically in a conference defined by that. Garrett Nussmeier, man, I know a lot of people are going to give the quarterback too much credit when things go well, too much blame when things go wrong. That guy was fighting for his life back there. Not a lot of protection against Clark Lee's Vanderbilt defense. That's not one of the best in college football, but can present a lot for the picture, or can present a lot of different things for you, can have a lot of different third down exotics. Garrett Nussmeier evaded pressure, took hits, made some big-time throws in this game. They just couldn't protect him consistently enough, couldn't run the ball consistently enough against this Vanderbilt defense. And maybe he's playing banged up, maybe he's not, but I still saw a guy making Sunday throws out there in a game that just didn't have a lot of support for him elsewhere. This offensive line lost 4 NFL players last year and struggled to run the football, and it's been more of the same so far this season. So we know the defense has made great strides, and that's why I was most excited to watch this game, because this Vanderbilt offense had been putting up damn near 50 points a game for the first half of the season, and they were going up against an LSU defense that I thought was legitimately, markedly improved under Blake Baker. And we're going to show you one of the plays at the end of this game that I think is emblematic of how Vandy has legitimized themselves, how Clark Lee has changed this into a team that's actually a college football playoff contender. Let's take a look at this play. So it is, to set the stage, 31-24 Vandy with 3 minutes and 12 seconds left. LSU's got 2 timeouts, so they're not out of the woods yet. It's a 1-score game, and if LSU were able to get a couple of stops, you've got the 2-minute timeout. You've got the ability to get the ball back and try and make something happen. We call this 4-minute offense. You're trying to drain the clock and end the game on your terms, and that requires you to run the ball in obvious situation. Everyone in the stadium knows what you're about to do, and you've still got to be able to execute it, and that's what Vanderbilt was able to do here. I want you to watch two guys. Guard Chase Mitchell, I wouldn't say left guard because this Vanderbilt team is really interesting, and Cole Kublik documented this during the game. They flip-flop their guys, so the guards and tackles will switch sides depending on what the play is. But I want you to watch him. This is counter, so he's going to pull and kick out the end. And then Clark Lee, former Vanderbilt fullback, come home, had to love this. Fullback number 44, Gabe Fisher. He's going to be the one that comes up through here as the second blocker that really seals the deal. Vanderbilt is going to go up against one of the better defenses in the SEC, and they're going to run counter for 43 yards to get the ball down in the red zone and put this game on ice. It's not just Diego Pavia running around making stuff happen. This is legitimate bully ball by Vanderbilt. So there's the first block right here, but this one's going to be the key. When you're coming through on counter or any gap run play, your coaching point in the offense is, I want to get my helmet inside this defender right here. I want to create this lane because then you take out all the tacklers coming from out here. Anyone coming from the second level is going to have to work hard to get over the top. If you're coming up counter power, they're designed to be A-gap downhill, middle of the line of scrimmage runs. And watch the way this fullback pries that man out of here, ends up blocking two guys on this play. Gets one block there, gets the second block there because he's working inside out, and then a great cut by the running back, and he scampers for 43 yards on this play. And now they're down in the red zone getting ready to make things happen. They run a few more plays. Pavia breaks off for a rush and then goes and kneels it down, and the rest is history. So Vanderbilt, again, this isn't cute anymore. This is a team that's going to be a dogfight for everybody left on their schedule. And it's not going to be easy. I think they've got the 7th or 8th toughest remaining strength of schedule in college football. That's life in the SEC, but you're equipped for it now in the Clark Lee era. He has changed that program, his alma mater. I know his name is going to get brought up for a lot of these jobs. The call of your alma mater is such a strange draw, and I do wonder, hey, I know there are a bunch of programs he's going to be talked about that have double the resources that Vanderbilt has, even though Vanderbilt's invested a lot in the program, redoing the stadium, giving Clark Lee the things that he needs to be successful. He really seems bought into trying to make his alma mater a place that can be successful again in modern college football, and it's been awesome to see. One of my favorite teams to cut on each and every week and check out. Let's look around the rest of the SEC. Bama and Georgia both came away with big wins this weekend. Alabama and Tennessee square off. Bama gets the win there. And Georgia, another come-from-behind win this weekend. You look at Ty Simpson, who is steady turning into one of the most draftable quarterbacks in this class. It's a marvel to watch. And I think Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb reuniting the way this offense operates. They are varied. They are multiple. Ty Simpson has to do and control a lot at the line of scrimmage. It's one of the things that I always liked about a quarterback in Michael Penix Jr. who had to make the jump to the NFL from this offense. You're used to being scheme versatile. You're used to throwing a lot of different things at defense. But the straw that makes the whole thing go, the straw that stirs the drink, the engine that makes this whole thing go, so I don't mix metaphors, is Ty Simpson at quarterback. Offensive line's pass protecting their ass off, too. I think Caden Proctor at left tackle is playing about as good as any guy that I've watched during this season. It's been incredible. So, NY Dumpster Juice, active today. Vandy loses to Tennessee in their last game of the season. They might. Vanderbilt's a good team. You saw plenty of that. Their defensive front is still a nightmare. Year after year, that's been one of the most consistent units in college football. For all the talk about Tennessee since Josh Heupel got there being a pace and space group, and Joey Aguilar is a good quarterback for that, the defensive front every year giving people problems is the thing that I always think about. But Alabama had answers for that. They were physical and protection all day long. I think Georgia clearly needed this win more. If we're going to ask who between Alabama and Georgia needed the win more, it was the Bulldogs. This season so far for Georgia, they've trailed in 4 of their 5 SEC games and are 3-1 in those wins. You've already got the loss to Alabama, and in a crowded field up top, we showed you the top 5. It's chock full of SEC teams. You've got to maintain that pace, and getting a quality win like this against an Ole Miss team that everyone was high on That's huge. They continue to find ways to problem solve. Gunnar Stockton, resourceful, and like kind of a reincarnate version of Stetson Bennett in terms of, hey, he's more mobile than you'd probably give him credit for, given the way his profile picture looks. Sneaky athlete, hashtag. So I think, no question, Georgia needed that win more. Who do I trust more down the stretch between Ty Simpson and Gunnar Stockton? To me, that one's easy. That's Ty Simpson. Just a different skill set. Arm is as strong as anyone you'll see in college football right now. Gunnar Stockton, capable, like we said, more athletic than he gets credit for. But Ty Simpson, also a guy, really moves around the pocket well, sudden athlete, a lot like John Mateer in that way. Obviously, I don't think not as much of a downhill runner, but both guys at the point of attack. You saw multiple times in that game against Tennessee. Ty Simpson backed up in his own end zone, rusher in his face, able to slow that defender's feet down enough to get the pass off and get them out of harm's way. I think he's the best quarterback of the two. As far as the coaching matchup between the two, I'd still favor Kirby Smart. The guy's got 2 national championships. I know the defense this year does not look quite like what we've been used to, but I trust who he is as a defensive mind. And again, they found the ways to win. They've made the adjustments. You go back to their win over Tennessee, and they're as resourceful as any team in college football right now. So Kalen DeBoer's doing a great job, though. Black hoodie Kalen DeBoer has been a revelation for the Crimson Tide. And I think we're now at the point where we're far enough away from that loss to Florida State and some of the early season, gnashing of teeth, to where even Alabama fans, he's not Saban. No one's ever going to be Saban, but this is the guy you hired and I thought should feel good about, and he's shown up now for you week in and week out from here. And so I think Alabama right now, your SEC favorite. Georgia's going to be in the hunt. They're going to have some company. We'll talk about Texas A&M in a little bit as well with a big-time win, but I think Alabama, the team to beat right now in the Southeastern Conference, have been doing a phenomenal job since that loss. Let's get to one of my favorite segments, overreaction or not, as we look through here. Again, anyone in the chat as we're going through this, fire away. We've been loving seeing the action there. I want to see if you are with me or not on this. I know a lot of questions about Florida and Lane Kiffin, so let's get to it. Overreaction or not, Lane Kiffin will be the Gators head coach next year. Not an overreaction. Like I get the appeal on both sides. Like, Lane's going to be the number one name mentioned for any of the high-profile SEC jobs. He's been mentioned in the Penn State job. Like, he's arrived at that level as a coach through his now midway through his 6th season, 50-19 at Ole Miss, a place where a lot of people didn't assume that winning 9-10 games a year was as possible as he made it look, as easy as he's made it look. Doing it with multiple quarterbacks that have played at a really high level, that he's coached up well in that offense, him and Charlie Weiss Jr. And so on one side, you've got the acumen. Like, Ole Miss seems to have unlocked the most, a Lane Kiffin that has matured some in his years. I still appreciate him being a bit of a college football anarchist and incredibly online. And for Florida, like, Ole Miss is ponying up. I saw their athletic director, Keith Carter, already said he's talking to Lane's agent, Jimmy Sexton. So, this probably isn't going to be over soon. But he said he's trying to talk to him about a new deal, said he wants to try and sign him the way Indiana did with Kurt Cinetti. But I just think where there's smoke, there could be fire here. Florida is one of the premier jobs in the SEC. They are a big fan base, a big university. They're in a state that's always been a recruiting hotbed. And we saw with Billy Napier this last year, they're willing to pony up. I mean, DJ Lagway is talented a quarterback, as sought after a quarterback as any in the conference, and they made sure he and a bunch of other talent stayed home there. So I just think this one seems to be the leader in the clubhouse right now. I know there's been some Marcus Freeman chatter. Stay away. Don't do it. But, not an overreaction there, certainly by a long shot. I know Steve Spurrier, name-checked Lane, also brought up Eli Drinkwitz. The premium, I think, for this job is going to be on SEC head coaching experience. This is a conference that, right, wrong, or indifferent, I think puts a lot of premium on that. Arch Manning is just a guy, overreaction or not. At this point, not an overreaction. Like, you go to this weekend, that game against Kentucky, God help anyone that watched that of their own volition. Under 50% completion percentage, 132 yards against the Kentucky defense that's 38th in SP plus on defense. Not world beaters by any mean. And Arch Manning, like, again, I'm not in any rush with him. I want to see what he looks like over the course of a whole season. In the portal era, I think once we get to after the season, going to be fascinating. Now, Texas is 5-2. and it hasn't looked all that impressive really at any juncture in this season. The Oklahoma win was a good one, especially factoring in the defense. We've talked about the offensive line issues. Texas going to have a decision after the season. Like, do you stick with him? Do you have to look in the portal and bring in some competition? Do you owe that to your team if you're Sark in this program? Like, this is where this version of college football is a lot different. It feels a lot more like the NFL. Think Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones in Indianapolis this offseason. So it's not going to be that easy. But right now, Arch Manning is an average college quarterback with a lot of fanfare who still, I think, has plenty of chance to grow in the right place. Overreaction or not, Texas Tech needs Baron Morton back. Definitely not an overreaction. I think they need all the help they can get right now on the high end of the conference. Will Hammond, 22 of 37 for 167 yards and was their leading rusher in this game. Not great, and we're kind of hitting the injury point of the season for Texas Tech, a team who portaled in an incredible roster. I thought still had a ton of depth, and Will Hammond had looked great in the Utah game when he had to come in, but listen, there's a reason Baron Morton was the starter. He is linchpin of this team as a leader in the locker room, one of the guys that has been here and has helped all these transfers, not only recruited them to get them here, but helped gel them once they got to the locker room. And you look on the other side of the ball, Skylar Gill-Howard, who was from day one, I got to cover their game against Kent State. Everyone in the building talked about from day one, Skylar Gill-Howard, when he stepped into that room as the transfer from Northern Illinois, was the heartbeat of that team, was the voice of that team. When he spoke up, people listened. And so not having that guy available with an ankle injury right now hurts. Romello Height, their star defensive end, who transferred from Georgia Tech, was questionable coming into this game, a little banged up. Terrence Carter, their tight end, went down and was carted off with an injury in the third quarter of this game. Their fourth leading receiver on an offense that has put up gaudy numbers, but I think is a huge beneficiary from the defense. I wouldn't say the offense, to me, is as good as the numbers have shown so far because of the benefit they've got from that defense. But now you're in a dogfight. Arizona State firmly back in the mix with that win. BYU, the highest-ranked team in the Big 12, and have looked great. Big win against Utah in a rivalry game. I don't think Utah's out of the mix. Cincinnati, lurking in the distance. Still undefeated in conference. Their only loss at the beginning of the season in Nebraska, which hasn't aged great either, but hey, teams grow. There was 3 new portaled receivers on that Cincinnati team that are all of a sudden starting to find their footing with a great quarterback in Brendan Sorsby, who I think has played awesome ball this year. Overreaction or not, Georgia Tech will win the ACC. I'll say overreaction. I'm not ready to go there yet, just because I worry, and I know their backup's done a fine job when he's been in there, but I do worry with this team. Haynes King, the get out of jail free card for this team when they need something to happen is they mash quarterback run. They spam quarterback run. And man, it's a lot of hits for a player that's talented, that's veteran, that's behind an offensive line that was a Joe Moore Award midseason honor rollee, and I think can give teams fits. I just worry down the stretch of the season. I mentioned, though, they're going to be FPI favorites in every game they play. Them and Virginia could be there. I do think that the issue is if they're going up against Virginia run defense-wise, bad matchup against Georgia Tech. Like, I would favor Georgia Tech in that one, certainly. Going up against Miami, different story if Virginia falters against Duke and now all of a sudden Miami can wedge their way back into this conversation. So that's the only thing that does it is Miami's still clearly the most talented team in this group. We'll see if Louisville has anything to say before the season's done about this. Virginia already has the head-to-head win against them in overtime. But I will go overreaction there for right now. Georgia Tech's going to be in it. I don't know if I can say they're going to win the ACC just yet. Last one here. Curry College running back Monty Quinn just set an unbreakable record with 522 yards rushing in a single game. Not an overreaction. That's insane. I don't care that it's D3 football. To do that on any football field, anywhere, is insane. 26 yards per carry. Pass go. Collect $200. He's got to be getting D1 calls after this. I don't know what year the guy is or anything else. But Curry College, good luck trying to hold on to this mutant. That's remarkable. 7 times. If that happened, me playing EA college football, the video game, I would spike my controller through the screen. So congratulations to him on that remarkable performance. Let's cap this off. We started doing this last week. We're going to do this every week. And boy, oh boy, does this show you how the world of college football changes. Let's get to the trust tree. Quarterback trust tree. Every week, we're going to give you tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 of the quarterbacks we would trust for their team to lead them to a national championship, lead them to the college football playoff at this point. Number one this week, Ty Simpson. I think he's earned it. Incredibly consistent performer. It's a coin flip to me right now with him and Fernando Mendoza as the guys on the top of the hill here. And since Ty Simpson was in a big game against a ranked opponent while Mendoza got to go and beat the heck out of Michigan State, I'll give the tie to Ty Simpson, pun fully intended this week. Fernando Mendoza and Julian Sayin down in that next tier, though. Ohio State looks like the best team in the sport. Like, the more and more we go along, the more steady and consistent they are, the more I think we need to probably start trying out the statement Ohio State back-to-back national champions, because they look like that good a team right now. Offensive line might be better than last year from what I've seen. Defense under Matt Patricia has been a vice grip, and their quarterback can spray it all over the yard. And, I mean, Carnell Tate, I have Ohio State friends that are starting to wonder aloud and ask the question, is he the best wide receiver on that roster, even with Jeremiah Smith? So that's not me. That's other people. We'll wait and see. That next year down, CJ Carr, bit of an off game for him. Rivalry game, started to look like a freshman. Wet ball throughout most of the night. Lesser stat line for him. Still had a rushing touchdown. Still had a nice touchdown pass in the low red zone and was advantageous to them winning. Kind of had the other side of the big play he made against Miami where he scrambled around and threw a great touchdown, threw a pick that almost swung the balance of the game. So you got to go down a tier for that, even though I still have a ton of faith in CJ. Marcel Reed, heck of a game, 23 of 32 for 280 and 3 touchdowns in a game where they had to score a ton of points against Arkansas in a shootout there. Diego Pavia, we talked about him before, one of the most impactful players and enjoyable quarterbacks to watch in college football. Dante Moore, still talented as all get off, a week removed from that Indiana game where he looked a little suspect. And then we'll give the nod to Gunnar Stockton here. We had Jade Mayava in here. He went on the road, tossed a couple of interceptions, and had an interception, had a couple of tough plays against Notre Dame defense that played a stingy brand of man-to-man defense. Still put up gaudy numbers, but now USC going to have a much tougher road to the CFP. So part of this is also who we think can actually make it to the college football playoff and do some damage with these quarterbacks. So this is the group we've got for this tree. As always, let us know here. Monty Quinn Sr. at Curry College. We got the note from Ryan, our producer, as we wrap up here. So might have other eligibility. Who knows? I'm still kind of assuming that most of these guys can challenge rulings in court and play college football for as many years as they want. So, guys, thank you as always to everyone in the chat who's been lighting us up all day long. We appreciate all you guys. We're going to try our best every week to make sure we answer a bunch of your questions and get to the conversations you want to have in the chat. We'll get back to our trust tree next week. We'll have, I'm sure, more to react to in the AP Top 25, as plenty of upsets seem to happen every week now. We talk about the parity in the sport all the time, and it makes it a ton of fun to come in here and do this each and every week. Thank you guys so much. Again, 6 p.m. Eastern, every Tuesday on the BR app, on the BR YouTube channel. I'll be here ready and waiting. Until then, enjoy the weekend of college football. We'll talk to you soon.